Hello there. Hey, hi. This is episode 140 of Glitch Report. I am your host, GnittWitt. Thank you for joining me today. You are here with me. We are going to talk video games. We're going to talk video game news. I'll maybe try to avoid another movie rant like last week's podcast, if I can avoid it. I mean, listen, if I can, I've not seen a movie since last week or before that week, so I don't have a lot of movie rant stuff to go on, but you're here, I'm here. We're going to talk video games. We're going to maybe talk a little bit about tariffs. Again, I'm not an expert on tariffs, and also I am in a country that is not, we didn't start this. We didn't start the fire. I'll just say that. Like, I'm here in Canada. This is not on me. This is not on me. Right before tariffs came into place, I was already paying out the ass for everything because of a weaker Canadian dollar in the face of the United States dollar. So I don't have a dollar menu, value menu at McDonald's in Canada. Like, I think they want like $3 something for a junior chicken. Like $3.16 for a junior chicken. Austin 316 says, I just paid too much money for a junior chicken. The point is, we're used to paying out the ass here in Canada especially for gaming and stuff like that. So, I don't know what to tell you other than, hey, listen, we're going to all suffer through this together. I was going to say we're going to get through it together. We're not going to get through it. Like, it's never going to get better. Prices are never going to come down. They're going to, like, if the tariffs went away tomorrow, prices would probably hover slightly higher than they were before the tariffs talk started. It is the nature of the beast. So, we're going to talk games and game releases. We have some rumors suspecting when the Nintendo Switch 2 pre-orders are going to start in Canada. The worst kept secret in video games, the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion remaster. We're going to talk that. But unfortunately, prices are going up. The PS5 is going up in the UK, Europe, and Australia for the second time. And we'll cover that news story in a moment, but I would not be surprised if that was reflected in other parts of the world as well. But I have some good news. Hey, I finished Assassin's Creed Shadows. I've spent some more time with that game. I also spent a little bit of time playing some of the older Assassin's Creed RPGs so that I could, try to compare one with the other in terms of how does this actually rank in comparison with something like Odyssey or Origins. Now, I should say off the top that I have not finished Odyssey. So Odyssey is the one big Assassin's Creed RPG that I have not finished. I finished Origins, I finished Valhalla, and I've now finished Shadows. So if you are looking for the definitive rank of Assassin's Creed games, you have come to the wrong place. I just don't have those details. I'm not enough of an expert to tell you, oh, well, how does this rank compared to Freedom Cry, or how does this rank compared to Rogue, or whatever. I don't know. I can tell you that I've come away from Assassin's Creed Shadows feeling pretty positive about it. We'll talk more about it on the show in just a moment. News-wise, let's just kind of rip the Band-Aid off. The Nintendo Switch 2 pre-orders are reportedly starting next week in Canada. Rumors are now saying, according to Bill Coon, that's the name of the person. Bill Coon is a leaker, a known leaker in the games industry. And Bill Coon says that according to them, pre-orders for Switch 2 are going to be starting April 23rd in Canada. So just a few days after 420. So get your weed. Make sure to not spend all your money on the weed. And you'll be able to put some money towards the Nintendo Switch 2, which is supposedly going on pre-orders April 23rd. It was originally going to begin on April 9th. Then Nintendo canceled that on the 8th, just a day earlier, saying, hey, fucking tariffs, right? Fucking this and that. America and Canada will not be getting pre-orders at the same time as everybody else, and then went about their business. So there's every possibility we still see price increases. We still see limited amounts of pre-orders available. The console is almost certainly going to sell out and be hard to find sooner rather than later. If you don't get your pre-orders in now, or when it comes up, I don't know when you're going to be getting a Switch, right? I don't know. And if you think about it like this, like think about like kind of the rollout of the Switch. There are next to no games coming out exclusively for the Nintendo Switch 2 at launch. The one exclusive is Super Mario World, or Mario Kart World, excuse me, Mario Kart World. Okay, so you have one game that might be the game that everybody wants to get because everybody wants an excuse to fire up a shiny new Switch that isn't just playing old games on a new console. And then a month later, you will get Donkey Kong Bonanza. If there is a resupply of Switches by then, there will probably be a run on that as well, because that will be the next new Nintendo Switch 2 exclusive game. I think bare minimum, and this is probably conservative guess at best, bare minimum, we're looking at the first couple of months of the Switch 2 being incredibly hard to find. But there's also every possibility that people look at the price and say, well, fuck that shit. And then next thing you know, scalpers are trying to gobble them all up and then try to damn near give them away or whatever the hell's going on. I mean, scalpers are going to get this console. It's the nature of the beast, right? With the exception of very, very few like hot, consumer electronics, like scalpers are out in full force all day, every day, getting that shit. Go try to buy a pair of shoes. Go try to buy some fucking Jordan 6 rings or whatever. Go try to buy a nice pair of shoes. It's not nearly as easy as it could be in the wake of resellers and scalpers and all of this shit. So hey, listen, I wish everybody the best of luck when it comes to trying to get a Nintendo Switch 2 pre-order. Hey, salute to everybody. Best of luck. I most likely will not be pre-ordering. I most likely would be aiming to get a console as early as Black Friday, but who knows, man? Who knows? Speaking of who knows, it seems like everybody knows that the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion Remastered is happening, and we have some details that have leaked. The game is reportedly set for release this month. One of the things that has kind of come up is that this game is supposedly going to be shadow dropped. And if you don't know what the term shadow dropped means, shadow drop is basically a term where a game is announced and released at the same time. Now, you don't have to necessarily apply this to games, but we're talking about video games, so that's what we're going to do. An example of a game that was shadow dropped might be something like Hi-Fi Rush. That was announced and released same day. So that is an example of a game that was shadow dropped. There are screenshots, there are details that have emerged from the game, leaks galore, screenshots galore. Overall, I think it looks nice, looks okay. I have no complaints about it graphically, though. In fairness, it has been a long time since I have seen what the original Oblivion looked like, so your memory of that game may be better than mine, but I look at it and I'm like, yeah, this looks like a video game. This looks fine. This is fine. Here's what we know. The Oblivion Remastered is supposed to be releasing on PC, Xbox Series X and S, including Game Pass, and PlayStation 5. There's supposed to be a deluxe edition of the game, which will be released alongside the normal version. The deluxe edition will include bonuses such as extra weapons and horse armor. It's reportedly being made by Virtuos, which is one of the largest game makers in the world. It focuses on supporting the development of major AAA games or bringing existing titles to new platforms. So they're a bit of a port house. So, Port House is a company that maybe doesn't make a lot of original games, but instead assists in the development of games as a support studio, or they are the ones that will take, say, the people that made Mortal Kombat 1 designed it originally for PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC. And then a team like Virtuos would be the ones that would go ahead and try to figure out how to fit that game onto a PS4 or a Nintendo Switch or something like that. So for context, this company has previously worked on Call of Duty, Tomb Raider, Dark Souls, BioShock, Battlefield, Uncharted, and Horizon. They're also currently supporting Konami in the development of Metal Gear Solid 3, the remake. In terms of what we can expect from the game, it will reportedly feature a visual and mechanical overhaul. Improvements to the game's blocking system have reportedly been inspired by Souls-like games, while sneaking icons will now be highlighted in a new system. The stamina system has been modified to be less frustrating for the player, making the knockdown that occurs when stamina is depleted more difficult to activate through changes in calculation methods. This is what they're kind of, saying to expect from the game. The HUD has changed to make it easier to understand and more more aesthetically pleasing to young players. Hit reactions were also added to improve the response to damage inflicted on the player and NPCs, and archery has been improved to make it more playable and modern in both third-person and first-person viewpoints. If you don't know, The Elder Scrolls IV: Oblivion, it is from the people that made Fallout 3 and Fallout 4 and Skyrim. So this is, a massive, grand, open world RPG set in the fantasy world of the Elder Scrolls. Makes me curious how that Elder Scrolls Online is doing. I don't know if they ever put like I think they put Morrowind into the Elder Scrolls. I own the Elder Scrolls Online, and I cannot tell you the last time I played it. It has been a long, long time since I played the Elder Scrolls Online. So I don't know if they ended up putting Oblivion in it or not. I know that people were working on a mod for Skyrim that would put Oblivion into Skyrim. I think it was called Sky Oblivion or something. So, people are making stuff happen in the world of Elder Scrolls. I got to be honest, I'm looking forward to this. I don't know if I want to go play original Oblivion in time for this new one to come out, but I'm definitely curious to check it out. Now, if there's a slight delay in the podcast, that's because I'm grabbing my phone and I'm going to the Steam app on my phone, and I'm going to sign into Steam using my phone. And the reason why I'm doing that is because it has come to people's attention that Steam, the PC digital gaming storefront, has been tracking the way you spend your money, and in fact has even totaled all of the money that people have spent over the years on their account. So if you are curious how much money, PlayStation may not have this, Xbox, Nintendo may not have this, but if you are curious, how long have you had your Steam account for, and how much money have you spent on that Steam account? There's actually now, whether it was hidden for the longest time, I don't know. There was a way to see, there is a way to see how much money you've spent. So I decided I would be a little vulnerable. I would be a little honest with you and share my total spend. Now, when I look at the total spend, I see the number right there. I see the number. I would like to provide a little bit of context for this number that I'm about to give you. They track it in USD, so I have to go and convert it. So this is technically fuzzy math because pricing could have changed. The Canadian dollar could have changed and all of this stuff. So I'm going to give you the number in USD, and then I'll convert it into into Canadian dollars for you. The other thing to note is that I have had this Steam account. I've been playing games on Steam since January of 2013. So he's had this. So GnittWitt's had this account for more than a decade. And I have now, again, it's all fuzzy math because I'm looking at my Steam library here, and it shows that I have 532 games on Steam. I believe that some of these games are free to play games. Not all of these games are paid games from what I can tell. I don't think all of these games are paid games. I think some of these are free. Destiny 2, right? Free game. So on and so forth. That all being said, here is the number for an account that I have had since January of 2013. Since January of 2013, I have spent $1,780.60 USD on games on Steam. That equates to about $2,472.57 Canadian. Now, I was nice enough to have a friend do some math for me. I was nice enough to have a friend do some math for me, but I cannot find the math that they did for me at the moment, so I will do it myself. Divided by. If you were to break this down from a yearly spend just on Steam, that equates to about $206 Canadian per year spent on games on Steam. And when I think about it like that, that's not that bad. I probably spent more that year at the bar. I almost certainly spent more that year at the bar, give or take. So, listen, gaming is gaming is becoming more and more expensive. If you don't already own a console, if you don't already have a good, decent, powerful, whatever words you want to use to describe your gaming PC, it's a real investment, right? Like we were just talking about the idea, like in Canada, it wouldn't be hard to spend near $1,000 to get into a Nintendo Switch 2 after tax, right? A gaming PC. I was looking at, I was on the Best Buy website, as one does, and I was looking at the high-end 5090 graphics cards for gaming PCs. I wanted to know what a 5090 graphics card was going for, and I saw graphics cards. I mean, they're sold out, because of course they are. They're almost all sold out. But if you wanted a 5090, you were looking at least $3,000 minimum Canadian. $3,000 minimum for the graphics card. That doesn't count for what do we see here? Asus, TUF 5090, $3339.99 just for the graphics card. Right? You can also get an Asus ROG for $4059.99. Again, that's just the graphics card. Zotac, $3669.99. MSI, you're looking at about $4,300. So if you don't already have the stuff you need to have to do the things you want to do, to play the games you want to play, as shit is getting pricey. Doesn't matter if we're talking tariffs. Doesn't matter if we're talking Canadian dollars. I'm not even talking about like wage stagnation. I'm not going to point the finger at any single system or any single thing. Not because I don't want to. It's just because, like, if I point the finger at one thing, I should address all of the systemic issues that have led us to this point. I don't necessarily feel like doing that, right? The point is that Shit is expensive, and it is not going to get any better anytime soon. This was another kind of not surprise announcement. This game had been kicking around for a while and has been, at least to me, probably one of the most exciting things that EA has announced since that new Skate game. They're working on a Star Wars game called Star Wars Zero Company. Now, Star Wars Zero Company is a turn-based tactics game from Respawn. Respawn is also the company that worked on Titanfall 2, as well as the Star Wars Jedi games, and also Apex Legends. Now, this is a collaborative effort because this is also coming from a company called BitReactor. BitReactor is a new studio formed by veterans of the XCOM and Civilization studio Firaxis. Respawn is going to be producing the game while BitReactor actually is the lead on the development. We don't know a lot about Zero Company at the moment, the development of which was announced alongside Respawn's shooter and third entry in the Star Wars Jedi franchise. They were at one point working on a Star Wars shooter. I don't know if they're still working on that Star Wars shooter or not. And we do know that Star Wars Jedi game is that third Star Wars Jedi game is still going in development, but there were a lot of leaks that have come from this game, similar to something like the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion remaster. And when they say turn-based tactics game, they are making a Star Wars XCOM game. It has, from everything I've seen, the cover system of the half cover, the full cover. It's got the Overwatch. It's got the, when you target an enemy for your turn to attack, it has the hit percentages. They are making Star Wars XCOM. And I think the thing for me that makes this exciting is that, you know, I don't mind. I really like XCOM Enemy Unknown. And I really love Marvel's Midnight Suns. When I think about turn-based tactics games, those are two games very, very near and dear to my heart. Of course, Final Fantasy Tactics as well. But sometimes those games can be a little on the hard side. You think about a game like Gears Tactics, which at times operates more like a puzzle game. It is very unforgiving, and you make one wrong move and you're kind of screwed. It's more about setting up these kind of puzzle pieces than actually acting and reacting within the scope of the battle that you're in for the turn-based combat, stuff like that. So for me, when I hear Star Wars XCOM, I think, oh, maybe they'll be able to make something a little more approachable, make something that's a little bit more approachable for people who, A, don't have the patience, and B, want to just kind of live that Star Wars tactics fantasy, you know? Like, I'm not saying that, like, with the Star Wars name comes the dumbing down of mechanics. I just think that, like, there is potentially room for something that is a little more approachable, even if it is very, very, you know, obviously and blatantly taking inspiration from something like XCOM Enemy Unknown, XCOM 2. That all being said, not a lot of details surrounding the game. They have officially announced it and officially announced it. There will be a full-on gameplay reveal this weekend for the game, April 19th, if you want to check that out. There is an event happening in Tokyo, Japan, that players can tune in for April 19th. Take a first look at the game. I'm looking forward to that. That looks super cool. Now I want to talk about a game that I am not looking forward to. And the more I see of this game, the more I lose what little interest I had. Bungie has gone ahead and officially announced Marathon. Marathon is their new multiplayer online shooter. It is an extraction shooter, as we already kind of knew. But we didn't know is that we didn't know a lot of details surrounding it. So the game sees players form a crew of 3 to battle against up to 18 other players each in a zone. Over the weekend, Bungie debuted the first gameplay preview, as well as a release date and closed alpha plans. First and foremost, it is coming to PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC later this year. The game is coming out on September 23rd, and this is the new game from some of the people that made Halo and Destiny, and it is a team-based extraction shooter. They describe it as, this is the kind of the loop they describe. Choose your runner and scavenge the lost colony of Tau Keti 4 for fortune, power, and answers to Tau Keti's secrets. Players fight over loot, which they must then extract successfully with to collect. If a team dies, their loot can be collected by other players. Bungie has also confirmed that it will allow players to play the game without the need of a full squad. However, this will be substantially more challenging. Basically saying that Marathon is going to be a game that you are going to want to play with people that you know in real life online. You're going to want to get the gang together, get the band back together, and say, hey, this is going to be our new multiplayer game. Because if you try to play Marathon by yourself, it is not going to be a good time. You're not going to want to play that game with people you don't know, whether you're working cooperatively or you're competing against them, which in fairness, you're always going to be competing against people you don't know, but still. Compare that to something like Halo. Compare that to something like Destiny, which Halo had a single player, offline story mode, and it had multiplayer that you could play with other friends, all join the same team and go do stuff together, or, you could play it by yourself. And in Destiny, while they forced a lot of the online, multiplayer stuff onto the player because it was an online game, you could still play a lot of Destiny 2 and Destiny 1 by yourself if you wanted to. That is not the case with Marathon. And I just got to say, up at the top, I think forcing players' hands to say, hey, you're going to want to play with other people, even if you're playing by yourself, I think, unfortunately, just pushes people away from the game completely. I would have probably spent more time playing Apex Legends if I didn't have to, if I didn't have to group with other people. If I didn't have to force myself to be in a squad with people in order to have a higher chance of survival and all that stuff, I probably would have played it, but I didn't. And they're kind of falling into the same thing with Marathon. They did say that there will be a closed alpha test starting on April 23rd. Any players interested in testing Marathon ahead of its September release can sign up on the Discord. Now, the other thing that they said about Marathon is that it is a premium title, but it will not be full priced, and it will not be free to play. People kind of had thoughts one way or the other about Concord, right? Concord, this idea of if it was a free to play game, more people would have played it. No, and I'm just literally just quoting kind of verbatim what Jeff Gerstmann said on his podcast, but Concord needed to be good, and it wasn't good enough, right? If people are willing to pay full price for a good game, right? You think about the most popular games that have come out this year alone. A lot of people spent full price and more to play Monster Hunter Wilds. Why? Because it's a good game. The second highest selling game of 2025 so far has been Assassin's Creed Shadows. A lot of people spend a lot of money to play the game. Why? Because it's a good game. Marathon was $40 and nobody cared. Right? Marathon's half the price or whatever of an Assassin's Creed Shadows, and nobody fucking cared. So yeah, you could reduce the price all the way down to free to play, and then you don't get the production value that you maybe expect from a Bungie developed game. You maybe don't get the amount of content that you would expect at launch for that game. You may not even get the support that you expect post-launch for a game like Marathon. That being said, I mean, for me, I'm not going to pay any money for this. There's no way I'm going to pay any ounce of a dollar to play Marathon. And even if it was free to play, there are free to play extraction shooters that I could go play right now. If I remember correctly, Hunt Showdown is literally on Game Pass for free, another extraction shooter. I didn't even bother to play that. So if there are opportunities to play these types of games that I don't even get to for one reason or another, despite there being free options for them, as someone who really enjoyed Halo, as someone who really enjoyed his time with Destiny up until he didn't, it's a incredibly hard sell for me personally. I think this game could end up being a potential disaster, depending on how it goes for them sales wise and reception wise. But reception was okay. It didn't seem amazing, and it didn't necessarily seem like the reception that a Bungie game gets. I think when Bungie announces a game, people tend to care a lot more and be a lot more excited. This is perhaps the most muted response I have seen so far for a Bungie game in quite some time. Estimations kind of target a $40 price range for Marathon, which would be in line with Helldivers 2 and Concord. One worked, one didn't. We'll see how it goes. I wish everybody the best of luck at Bungie on Marathon's development, but I have some concerns it will not work out. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about that PS5 price increasing in parts of the world. Stick around. We'll be right back. All right. Welcome back. Let's talk the PS5 getting more expensive in parts of the world. Sony has announced that it has increased the price of the PS5 digital edition in some regions, effective immediately. This is coming from Video Games Chronicles. You might be asking yourself, what does that mean? What is Video Game Chronicles? That means shout out to Video Games Chronicles. That's what that means. I got some numbers. Let's run them down. The PS5 digital edition now costs 500 euros in Europe. It is a $50 price increase for that console. In the UK, the console now costs 430 euros. That is an increase of $40. This is the second time that Sony has raised the price of this console, previously doing so in 2022. The good news is that the standard PS5 console and the PS5 Pro will not receive price increases in the UK or Europe, probably because the PS5 Pro is too fucking expensive as it is. Now, Australia and New Zealand, which are not the same place, are also getting price increases on both the digital and standard edition of a PS5 console. In Australia, the digital edition will now cost $750, which is up from $650 and $600 before that. And the standard edition will now cost $830, which is up from $800 and up from $750 before that. The good news is that they are dropping the price of the PS5 disc drive. It'll be dropping to 70 euros in the UK and 80 euros in Europe. This is what I mean when I say like gaming is just getting more and more expensive, because this would have been the time that we would have seen price drops on consoles. We saw a price increase in Canada, so we're already there. We already saw a price increase in Canada when it comes to our consoles. So like we're there. We've been living it. That all being said, like this is like the time when we would have seen price drops occur, cuts here and there, new bundles here and there, and we just don't see it. We don't see it because maybe people are thinking, oh, well, by the time Grand Theft Auto 6 comes out, everyone will pay out the ass for a PlayStation 5 that didn't already buy one. So fuck them. Why give them a discount when they're still waiting for the game that they want to get to justify the console purchase anyways? Which then begs the question, okay, so let's say PS5 and Xbox Series X and S, I'm getting a headache just thinking about this, sorry. If the existence of Grand Theft Auto 5 makes people buy that console that they wouldn't have bought or were waiting to buy, how do you sell people a PS6? Seriously, with backwards compatibility for PS4 and PS5, is that even enough? Of course not. You would need a new game that you can only get on that console. And everybody is far too risk adverse to make true next generation, console exclusive games. Horizon Forbidden West came out on both PS4 and PS5, right? I know Spider-Man 2 was a PS5 exclusive, but like, come on, how many actual PS5 exclusives are there? And I'm not doing the thing where I'm like, oh, well, if it came out on PC, it doesn't count as exclusive. No, fuck that. Like, what console exclusives? Dark Souls remake, Spider-Man 2, God of War Ragnarok, Horizon. Well, not even Horizon. I was going to say Horizon Forbidden West, but no, not even Horizon Forbidden West, because that came out on PS4. Like, there are so few of those exclusive games, and even fewer from third parties. Think about like third party exclusive games, right? Probably the biggest third party exclusive game that I can think of. I can think of three. I can think of three off the top of my head. Monster Hunter Wilds, because we just talked about that. Assassin's Creed Shadows, we just talked about that. And that fucking college football game that EA put out that was only available on Xbox Series X and S and PS5. Like, there are so few of these exclusives. Now, I'm not arguing that there should be more. I'm not saying anything like that. But if all you're doing is increasing the price of games and game consoles and not giving and game subscriptions while we're at it, PlayStation, Plus and Game Pass getting more expensive all the time, what are you actually providing to people? And how do you pull them away from a cheap backlog of used PS4 and PS5 games? Or how do you pull them away from Fortnite or Grand Theft Auto Online or Destiny 2 or Warzone? Like, how do you pull them away from these games to buy some brand new game? Like, this is the problem we keep running into, is we are too risk adverse when it comes to making console exclusives that try to get people to buy a new console if they haven't done so already, or commit to the console they already own. So, like, this is why I sit here as like a PC player of like, well, I'm going to get all of the Xbox exclusive games. I'll get all the Xbox exclusive games, which in fairness don't even become Xbox exclusive games anymore because they eventually make their way to PS5, such as Forza Horizon 5 coming to PS5, such as Indiana Jones now out on PS5. And then what do you pay for? What are you paying for? What are you getting? That's kind of my question. At least you look at, the Switch 2. At least you look at the Switch 2 and say, okay, yes, Mario. I will only be able to play Mario on a Nintendo Switch. I will only be able to play The Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, Donkey Kong Bonanza, fucking Animal Crossing, you name it. And now I'm ignoring the people that are like, oh, I can't wait to play Switch 2 games emulated on PC. Like, fuck off. We're not talking about emulating games 6 weeks after they're out on your PC. I'm talking about the way the business runs and has to run to operate in a healthy and sustainable way, which is rapidly becoming an unhealthy and unsustainable way, but maybe we can course correct. I don't know if we can. So go ahead, keep jacking the price up of the PS5. Go increase the price of the PS5 in Canada, increase the price in the United States. You're going to find out that the plateau is going to hit a lot harder. At least that's what I suspect. I think the plateau on people buying these consoles is going to hit a lot harder than you expected. And then everyone will be left scrambling, and everyone's going to be left scrambling well up into and past the point where they need to figure out what the next Xbox console looks like and what the next PlayStation console looks like. Like, I got friends and family who, and I don't want to speak for them on their behalf, but if I had to guess, are in no way, shape, or form interested in buying whatever the next console from PlayStation is. Right? When they have access to PC gaming, or they have access to Switch, or they have access to older games on the hardware that already works. And then you talk about like hardware, like, older games on hardware that still works. Like, dog, they put out a PS5 version of GTA 5. So, like, even if you went and you bought a PlayStation 6, they're still going to put out Grand Theft Auto 6 on a PlayStation 6. You'll be playing the same old fucking game anyways. They want to sell consoles to people that haven't bought consoles before, but in the wake of inflation, in the wake of tariffs, in the wake of greed, in the wake of this entire financial system across the world seemingly falling apart at the seams for everybody but the 1%, what are you going to do? You're just going to say, I got a PS5, I'm going to stick with it. Oh, I have a PS4 Pro. I'm one of those people that bought a PS4 Pro and I play Fortnite or whatever. Good enough for me. Can you blame those people? And can you blame people for being pissed about prices going up in the rest of the world? We already kind of covered this, but Assassin's Creed Shadows is the second to best selling game in the United States following Monster Hunter Wilds. That's reportedly coming from Circana, everybody's favorite worker, man at Circana, Matt Piscatella, says that Assassin's Creed Shadows has been the best-selling video game in the U.S. for each of its first 3 weeks in market, according to Circana's retail tracking service. Currently ranks 2 year-to-date, trailing only Monster Hunter Wilds. The game was also a hit in the UK too, selling more copies in 1 week than a fellow Ubisoft game Star Wars Outlaws managed to do in 3 months. Hey, you know what? Again, not without a doubt, not a game that's going to turn around, Ubisoft's fortunes in any way, shape, or form. But a success nonetheless. Real quick news story: Mafia: The Old Country has had a release date leaked online. Everyone is saying that game is going to come out on PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC August 8th. It is set in 1900s Sicily and follows Enzo, who survived a childhood working in the island's sulfur mines and finds himself with the opportunity to join Don Teresi's crime family. They kind of talked about, Hangar 18 talking about Mafia. The Old Country is a love letter to old style gritty Mafia stories where players can uncover the origins of organized crime. So basically this is the Assassin's Creed origins of Mafia, right? I'm sure that the Mafia had, a history and lineage that dated back further than 1900 Sicily. But in terms of the timeline of the Mafia games as we know them today, this is kind of the origins of it. And Mafia: The Old Country coming out August 8th. Though they didn't confirm it, but, you take a guess. Oh, we should have talked about this when we were talking about, when I was getting all fired up talking about, PS5. Talk about same old, same old. Naughty Dog has announced a complete Last of Us collection for the PlayStation 5. And it's going to come with a $120 collector's edition. So you can get it, and so you might be wondering, what do you get? What do you get? $100 for The Last of Us Part 1 and The Last of Us Part 2 remastered. And you can get that digitally right now, $100 US on the PSN store. For $120 US, starting July 10th, you can get the game in a it comes in a steelbook case with an American Dreams American Dreams comics number 1 through 4, which features new cover art, a set of 4 lithographic prints, and a thank you letter from Neil Druckmann. Now, thank God, if you buy the collector's edition, it does come with physical discs of both games, if that is your thing. But man, talk about same old, right? I mean, goddamn, how many ways can we play The Last of Us 1? 3. not counting PC, not counting PC, you can play The Last of Us Part 1 3 different times on PS3, PS4, and PS5. 4 if you count PC. And in the case of The Last of Us Part 2, you can play that 3 different times if you count PC. I can't wait for The Last of Us Complete Remastered to come out on PlayStation 6 as like a fucking launch title or something for that new console. But anyways, hey, just in time for the TV show, you can get The Last of Us Complete Edition, which to me seems like, hey, we are not going to make any more Last of Us. And maybe it's because they wrote themselves into a corner with the last game. I don't know. I didn't play it. That PC version did make its way over to Steam. That's finally out. Maybe I'll check it out one of these days. Speaking of games I may check out one of these days, but it won't be anytime soon. Dune, well, it won't be that far away. Dune Awakening, the upcoming MMO based on the Dune books. It is the multiplayer survival crafting game. Has been delayed. It was originally supposed to come out May 20th. It'll now come out June 10th. Now, developer Funcom has explained that the delay will allow the team to address feedback provided from players during the persistent closed beta. So there was a closed beta they did for people playing the game. They got their feedback and they're like, oh shit, we got to delay the game. Now they're only delaying it by like a couple of weeks. Like it's nothing crazy. And you can still get early access to the game and get a head start beginning June 5th if you have the fancy edition of the game. Funcom says, Dune Awakening is a beast of a game. This is multiplayer survival on a massive scale, and we're making gameplay and technical strides not seen in the genre before. We want to make sure we're sticking the landing. Funcom also explains that the delay allows them to host a large-scale beta next weekend that will host even more players. The team plans to share more information about this beta soon. Dune Awakening will be available on PC on June 10th, and they will put out a PS5 and Xbox Series X and S version later sometime. The game takes place in an alternate timeline to the recent films as players must work together to survive Arrakis by crafting resources, architecture, and locating water. Despite its multiplayer nature, Funcom promises to deliver a cinematic storyline with Dune's lore permeating the experience through the server-wide politics and intrigue. The game allows for multiple approaches to getting ahead, whether amassing political power, controlling the spice trade, or simply acting as a scouter to map out the world and sell that information to players. Sounds neat. We won't get a chance to play it until June, unless there's an open beta. This is the final news story, and it's the final news story because it's about Baldur's Gate 3's final update. That one update just went live on Tuesday. Baldur's Gate 3, I don't know if you know, one of the greatest games of all time, one of the best games of 2023. And is just as popular a year and a half later after its full release. Larian Studios has put out 7 major updates for the game. It announced that their 8th patch, boasting more content than most of the previous patches, would be the final one. Today, the studio announced it goes live on April 17th, though it's already out. I'm not going to go over all the things that they added and all this crazy stuff, but I want to cover a couple things. Patch 8 will add 3 major pieces of content. The first is the ability to fully cross-play between consoles, Mac, and PC. So remember, you can play it as a single-player game, totally, full story. Like I completely played the time I spent with Baldur's Gate. I completely played alone. I did not play with anybody. Didn't miss a thing. Not a problem. However, you can play that game multiplayer. You can also play that game online with people. And now, if your buddy has it on Xbox and you have it on PlayStation, you can do crossplay between those consoles. The second edition they're adding is a photo mode. The third edition is 12 new subclasses, one for each class in the game. The classes are pulled from the wide pool of existing character classes in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, and then slightly tweaked to better fit the Baldur's Gate style of play. Here are the subclasses. You know what? I thought it'd be fun. Let's run through the subclasses together. Here we go. For Bard, you are going to get the College of Glamour. For Barbarian, you are getting Path of Giants. Cleric is getting Death Domain. Druid is getting Circle of Stars. Paladin is getting Oath of the Crown. Fighter is getting Arcane Archer. Monk is getting Drunken Master. Ranger is getting Swarm Keeper. Rogue is getting Swashbuckler. Sorcerer is getting Shadow Magic. Warlock is getting Hexblade. And a Wizard is getting Blade Singing. Now, do not ask me the difference between a sorcerer, a warlock, and a wizard. I don't know what the difference is. I know that Ryu from Street Fighter is a monk. This is what I know. Harry Potter was a boy wizard. Jerry was a race car driver. Jeremiah was a bullfrog. These are the things that I know. But if you were to ask me, GnittWitt, like gun to my head, GnittWitt, what's the difference between a sorcerer, warlock, and wizard? I would say the length of their beard, if they have one. Anyways, that's fun. Do I think it's going to be the last update? I don't think so. I think they'll probably put out another update. But who knows when? But hey, now, all these years later, Baldur's Gate 3 is finally complete for you to play, including those subclasses that you needed. Final break. We're going to take it right now. We'll be right back. Stick around. Welcome back from the final break for this podcast. I forever remain GnittWitt, and one thing that I will not be doing forever, because I have finished it, is Assassin's Creed Shadows. I have completed the main story of Assassin's Creed Shadows. I'm done. I am done. The main story. I kind of started to focus a lot more on the main story because I knew that my subscription for Ubisoft Plus was coming to an end. I believe on the 20th. I believe on the 20th is when my subscription to Ubisoft Plus is over. So I just thought to myself, well, shit, I gotta get this done unless I want to pay for another month of Ubisoft Plus. And really the mathematics that I was doing in my head was this idea that like, okay, I paid about $22 to play Assassin's Creed Shadows day one through the subscription, right? I did that and I knew that I didn't own the game, right? I see so many people right now that are just like championing, like buying games, owning games, buy CDs, buy Blu-rays, buy physical media. They're going to take it all away from you. All of this stuff. Rah, rah, rah. I think that's because earlier today, Spotify was down and I just saw so many people online being like, see, you pay all this money for a service and they can just take it away from you. Why are you paying so much for, Spotify to not, just to avoid having ads when you don't even own any of the music? And I'm going to tell you something right now. Like, most people that pay for Netflix or Spotify and do so with or without the ad tier, because I know you can pay for Netflix with and still get ads. Nobody is sitting, like the vast majority of people that own that have an active Spotify premium or active Netflix subscription, nobody's actually sitting around thinking they're getting a good deal. Nobody's sitting around being like, yes, Netflix, what a steal of a deal. I get to pay to watch whatever, and I get WrestleMania for free and I still get ads, or I don't get ads, or I get 4K or I don't get 4K. Like, nobody's sitting around thinking they're getting some good deal. In fact, nobody is sitting around thinking that they own anything. All they know and all they think about is, well, it's better than if I had to buy this stuff a la carte, or it's better than if I, went to the library to rent a DVD or whatever, right? It's better than getting up off the couch and putting a disc in a fucking machine. This is what people think. This is all that they think. They don't think about how nice it would be to own a record collection or how much better it would sound on a CD through a hi-fi system or whatever. No, but the reason why we're doing this is for pure digital convenience, and because in the short term, if people are living fucking paycheck to paycheck, month to month, people are thinking it's cheaper in the short term. So for me, yes, maybe I could have bought Assassin's Creed Shadows for $90 Canadian, and I could have ended up putting like 90 or 100 hours into the game. I know they're also putting out free expansions and updates for the game later on, but like instead, I spent $20. I played through almost a majority of the game, completed the main, I say almost a majority of the game because I didn't complete all the side stuff, and I paid like $22. And maybe, 3 years from now when that game is like $30, I will have bought it and I would have spent 60 and it's not that bad or whatever. 50, 60, whatever. But I ended up wrapping up Assassin's Creed Shadows. Total playtime, 42 hours. Total progress, 47. So the main story is significantly shorter than anything else in the game. There are so many collectibles, so much side quests, so many things that you can go do. And I still have the game installed. I might still like mess around with it and play with it until my subscription is over. But I ended up walking away from it really enjoying it. And again, I say that as someone who, I am getting a slightly compromised experience because I am, only playing it for a short period of time. I am assuming that the people that made Assassin's Creed Shadows weren't thinking that you were going to blaze through the game in less than a month, right? I don't know. Maybe not. It doesn't matter. The point is that I beat it, I played through it, and I enjoyed it. And I would recommend it to people. I would recommend it if you were paying full price for the game. I would recommend it if you weren't paying full price for the game. Now, the question is, how good is Assassin's Creed Shadows really? I've had some time to think about this. I spent some time playing, briefly playing a little bit of Assassin's Creed Origins. I fired up my post-game save in Assassin's Creed Origins. I played a little bit of Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I'm not very far into that game. And I spent some more time running around Assassin's Creed Shadows. So this is probably going to be my definitive kind of take on Assassin's Creed Shadows going forward. So here we go. I think Assassin's Creed Shadows is a great game, and the shortcomings that it has are mostly easy to ignore. It has some pretty obvious, blatant shortcomings, but they don't take away too much from the game entirely. And let me kind of explain what I mean. The dual protagonist system does not work that well. Big picture wise, it doesn't work well in the game, and I'll explain why. Naue and Yasuke are great characters. I think the stuff that they go through, the way they see the world, the way they carry themselves as people, they're great characters. I really enjoyed my time with them. But Naue is such a more enjoyable character to play as that it makes me think that Yasuke was like a late, inclusion in the game or something because of how much of an important role he plays as a story and how attractive as a character he is just from the way he sees things and his personality. You think about like comparing Assassin's Creed Shadows with Ghost of Tsushima, and I would say that like Ghost of Tsushima is a game where every time you go and do stealthy ninja shit, the story is kind of beating you over the head with this idea that like, maybe you shouldn't do that. Maybe you shouldn't engage with sabotage. Maybe you should be an honorable samurai. Whereas Yasuke is very much growing into becoming an honorable samurai and learning that you got to do bad shit to bad people. So like in that sense alone, he's a much more interesting samurai character. His relationship with the shinobi and the shinobis and the ninjas in Assassin's Creed Shadows, it's a lot of fun. You know, his kind of, you know, interpretation on being a soldier for Nobunaga and his relationship with the Portuguese priests and all of that stuff and where he comes from and all that stuff. Like, I think it's a lot of fun. Unfortunately, like when you get around to playing as him, he becomes a very compromised character because he just doesn't hold up his end of the bargain from a gameplay perspective. He is slow. He is lumbering. He cannot climb as much. He cannot run as fast. And I think in a game where you are having some of your best time either engaging in the hand-to-hand combat, which Yasuke excels in, probably the most fun in the hand-to-hand combat is taking on massive groups of guys as Yasuke and just cutting through them like a hot knife through butter. Yasuke will really fuck up some, like if you got some bad samurai, some big, bad, burly enemies in your sights and they're fighting you, he can just cut, like Yasuke basically is easy mode from the context of the combat, but he's still fun to play as when you are doing that. It's just forget trying to play him stealthily, forget trying to climb stuff, forget running through the open world, trying to clean up side quests and collectibles. He's just too slow. You get him on a horse and he's going to move at the same pace as Naoe does on her horse. But, you know, when I'm just running around from A to B, or I'm, you know, just running through the environment just for the hell of it, I am always playing as Naoe. And Naoe is a great character in the context of her story and what she goes through, how she sees the world, how she kind of balances revenge with justice and vengeance and all of that stuff. I think it's compelling, even if the actual story beats and the storytelling fall a little flat. We'll talk more about that in a moment. But at the end of the day, I want to run, I want to jump, I want to sneak, I want to throw ninja stars, I want to do ninja shit. And that game is at its best when you are doing ninja shit. Again, the main combat as Yasuke is fun, but everything else about his samurai playstyle starts to fall apart. Naoe, top to bottom, a great character mechanically, and I think that's what makes this game so fun, is like doing ninja shit is a lot of fun. Doesn't matter who you are. Character-wise, I like them. They're fun characters. I just think that the story could give them a little bit more. I feel like in both scenarios, they wait until very, very late in the story to start to explain what's going on with Naoe and what's going on with Yasuke. It feels very Quentin Tarantino-esque in terms of like, oh, all of the answers are going to come in the form of flashbacks and all of this stuff, and it's all going to happen very, very late in the story. And I think when you're making, like, I always compare Quentin Tarantino because of his style of like, we're going to open the movie up with the ending, then we're going to jump to the middle, and then we're going to go back to the beginning, and then we're going to do all of this stuff like, you know, Pulp Fiction style or Reservoir Dogs style, or, you know, Uma Thurman staring at her naked foot in Kill Bill saying, wiggle your big toe, like a lot of that stuff. But I think in a 40, 50, however many hours game, I think that really starts to bog down the pacing of the game. It starts to muddy the storytelling, right? So unfortunately, I feel like the plot doesn't give Naoe and Yasuke too much to do, but it is compelling enough that I was able to see through it to the end. Now, I keep picking on storytelling and I keep picking on the story because, like I said, the main plot, I think, does not give them a ton to work with, but it's compelling enough. The storytelling lets down the story even more in my opinion. So what I mean by that is in this game, you know, the main plot is kind of hunting through this group of people and taking out these targets, right? And as you do that, you start to meet characters in the world that find out that there are other gangs and criminal organizations and shadowy political figures. And basically you're looking at like a board in the game that is constantly growing web of syndicates and organizations that you can go take out, right? But they're all kind of treated as main stories, right? So if you're bouncing from the open world, going from one story mission to another, you might be playing things completely out of order as you bounce from half finishing one organization of assassinations to another target list of assassinations, so on and so forth. I think that really muddies the story, if I'm being honest, because so much of it is treated equally in some cases. But I think it's fun to be able to be like, hey, I can like chain together 3 different, like I've set up all these different assassinations. I did all the groundwork, all the intel. I did all the fetch quests and story missions leading up to this person's going to be in this location. You go kill them, finish the mission. But there have been times where I'll spend a bunch of time hunting down this side group of Ronin that are terrorizing farmers in the countryside, and then get back to one of the main quests surrounding the main group of people I'm trying to kill. And I'll be like, who are these people again? What's going on? Why? So I wish it was a little bit better about, distinguishing between main story quests and side quests that are actually presented as main story quests, because it gets a little muddy. When you combine that with a story that maybe isn't super amazing through and through, you can see where I'm just like, man, like this story just doesn't really go anywhere. Unfortunately, the good news is that the gameplay is rock solid for the most part, especially when playing as Naoe. And you can play the vast majority of the game as Naoe if you want to, completely ignoring Yasuke up until a point. There are story missions that only Yasuke can do. They are maybe a couple dozen, like at most. They're not a lot. And most of the assassination missions you can do as Naoe if you want to as well. So while Yasuke's a fun character to see in cutscenes, to talk to get his perspective, again, when you play him, it's just not that amazing. But you can ignore a large part of his gameplay if you want to. You will need to play as him to finish the main story if that is your goal. It's a gorgeous looking game. I think it's the weather effects are gorgeous. The wind-swept world of Japan looks gorgeous. I think the changing of the seasons is a lot of fun, and the different weather and dynamic weather and stuff it brings. They were really trying to talk up the gameplay of it and how the gameplay changes from season to season, between how the gameplay feels in spring versus fall versus winter and all of this stuff. I don't think that really comes through. Yeah, I guess I can hide in the snow if I'm trying to be a little more stealthy in the snow or whatever, or nighttime is more effective in the winter time because it gets darker than it would in the summer. But it's just pretty, like when the leaves, when it switches from from summer to fall, and the leaves start to change colors, or it's the spring and you see all the cherry blossoms. Like, to me, it's just like, this is just a new pretty thing to look at. And you don't see a lot of games that actually do dynamic seasons on top of their day and night cycle and their dynamic weather. The only other game I can think of that does that is Forza Horizon, and that's another scenario where it's gorgeous. But when you're driving through the seasonal changes in Forza Horizon, you don't feel it quite as much from a visual standpoint and from a mechanic standpoint as you may. Well, I should re-clarify. In Forza Horizon, when you are driving in the snow versus the fall versus the summer versus the spring, you might actually feel it a lot more because of the road conditions, right? Ice on the track, wet, wet, things like that, right? Whereas you may not see it quite as much in the sense that you are a car that's mostly focusing on the road versus a human who is maybe climbing through the trees, swimming through the lakes and the rivers and all of that stuff. So it ends up being just a really effective use of that stuff. Overall, I think Assassin's Creed Shadows is pretty darn good. Going back and playing it from a raw running around, jumping, shooting, stabbing, fighting, I think it ends up probably being one of the best playing Assassin's Creed RPGs, if not the best playing Assassin's Creed RPG. So I gotta say, Assassin's Creed Shadows, pretty damn good. I might mess around and play some more of it, try to clean up some more of that open world stuff that I haven't finished before my subscription is over. But if you end up picking up Assassin's Creed Shadows at full price, you might feel like it's a little too repetitive, a little too samey in some cases, or some of that Yasuke gameplay maybe and story stuff is maybe a little undercooked. But I really enjoyed it for the gameplay loop that it is and the world that it presents. There are times where running through the open world can feel a little empty, feel a little boring, feel a little bland. Navigating the world where you can't climb literally every surface like you could in other Assassin's Creed games can be a little annoying, because I'm so used to Valhalla just climbing up any fucking rock surface, no matter how big the mountain is. Ain't no mountain high enough to climb in games like Assassin's Creed Valhalla and Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Whereas in Shadows, there are slippery surfaces and stuff like that it's a little harder to climb up. It'd be cool if they included the ability to just climb everything, but they have not done so. I like Assassin's Creed Shadows. Like, it's good. Don't ask me to rank it amongst my favorite Assassin's Creed or my favorite Assassin's Creed RPGs. I think it's a really good game. I'm pleasantly surprised by how it turned out. I am hopeful for the future of Assassin's Creed. The next game that they are supposedly working on is Assassin's Creed Hex or Hexe, I believe it is called. It is the working title for the next installment in the Assassin's Creed games. And that game is going to be helmed by Ubisoft Montreal. And that game is supposed to be one of the darkest games in the series so far, set during the witch trials in the Holy Roman Empire. Perhaps the ability to deal with something along the lines of the paranormal, the superstitious. There is no, and for those wondering, Assassin's Creed Shadows focuses more on real characters, real historical characters. There is almost no mythology stuff that I see. Like, you're not meeting gods the way that you might in other Assassin's Creed RPGs. You're not doing any of that stuff. This is very much trying to be rooted in something like, history, right? With the way that the Portuguese and the Japanese, kind of engaged with each other and all of that stuff. So, we'll see, man. I like, to be honest, the idea of the witch trials during the Holy Roman Empire, I think is a lot of fun. I think that's a really, really cool idea. It being potentially something different from their action RPGs. I mean, here's the thing. I really like the action RPGs. I like the loot. I kind of like the bloat and all of the things to do. I just wish that sometimes it was more well written. I wish sometimes it was more engaging. Like, I think about the side quests in Origins being a lot of fun. I think about the open world in Valhalla just being bursting at the seams, where it's almost like you were tripping over stuff getting through that game. But anyways, the next game is codename Hexe, also referred to as Neo, and that is reportedly the next game in the Assassin's Creed series. We'll see, man. We'll see. There was a pentagram in one of the teaser trailers. Okay. So what's next for me? If you're curious what's next for you, boy GnittWitt, I got to go back and I got to finish South of Midnight. I got a friend of mine who was just playing through South of Midnight, finished that game. I really want to play through South of Midnight and finish that game up for sure. In terms of what's coming out and what to expect from Game Pass, I'm just, or new games in general, I'm going to pull that up here for you in just a moment. If we're looking at for new games, next week, like next week, like it's coming up, man. It's soon. We're getting Claire Obscure Expedition 33. That's out on the 24th. Very excited for Expedition 33. Really looking forward to that. That's the new turn-based French JRPG. Gotta love those French JRPGs. But anyways, that's coming out on the 24th. Looking forward to that. Towerborn is coming out on Game Preview Program. That is coming out pretty soon. That's the new loot brawler game. I forget who made that. Who is making Towerborn? Why doesn't it tell me on this fucking website. Stoic. That's a new game from Stoic. Towerborn. If you haven't seen Towerborn, go look up Towerborn. That's a gorgeous looking side-scrolling action RPG with loot. Next month, Doom the Dark Ages. That's on the 14th. Very, very excited about Doom the Dark Ages. That's out on the 14th. So until then, I'm going to try to wrap up. I'm probably going to be able to wrap up. Well, we'll see. I'm working a lot during Easter weekend, but might get around to finishing South of Midnight before next week, might not. And then we have Claire Obscure Expedition 33. I submitted a review copy request for a game that isn't out until later this month. I don't know if I'm going to end up getting that review copy or not. So I might get a new game coming my way that I can review. I might not. We'll find out sooner rather than later. And if so, we'll talk about it and we'll review it and we'll play it and we'll do all the stuff we can do within the time frame of that. But we won't know for certain until that happens. Until then, I have been GnittWitt. This has been Glitch Report. Find everything that I do over at my Linktree, linktree.com/GnittWitt, GnittWitt. I am on Twitch, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, occasionally. I am on YouTube, and the podcast can be found on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. Glitch Report. That's it. We'll see you all next week. Take it easy.